Hello and welcome to the Moon Underwater. I'm Kelly Daniels.
And I am Steve Jones. Rather disheveled Steve Jones looking for
Disheveled.
a pen.
You've been in a
pen.
basement all day. Were you kidnapped? Was that the story you were telling?
Not.
Oh, kidnapped by your job. Well, I'm going to have a sip of my beer since I've been...
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's like here.
Like right here. Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Here is to another great episode.
Clearly, after I've managed to alienate all of our listeners by refusing to endorse either presidential candidate last time.
Wait. I was going to cut that whole thing out. So, I mean, I don't have to, but I felt like it dragged a little bit.
All right.
But I don't know.
We've never cut anything.
No, we haven't. Maybe I'll leave it in just for that.
I don't know.
But whatever.
It feels honest.
People that are listening to this episode will already know.
Or no, they'll need to go back if they haven't heard it.
Yeah.
Bump those numbers up in the last episode.
They'll find out.
Who did I support?
One way or the other.
I should have put that at the end.
Yeah. So anyway, to the subject at hand, we are going to talk about another couple of short stories.
Digging the short stories
These
right now.
two are definitely not comedies. I
No.
don't think they're meant to be funny, and I do not think they are accidentally funny. Or did you find some humor?
No, none.
Okay. So this is an author.
Well, okay, wait. No, in one of them I did.
All right, let's get to it when we get to it. This is an author named Paul Bowles. He's one of my favorite authors, short story authors forever. He also wrote a novel called The Sheltering Sky, which was made into a movie with John Malkovich and Deborah Winger. It's a pretty cool movie, and it's a pretty great novel, too. He was a sort of the tail end of the Beatniks.
Yep.
And he's a famous composer, too. Actually, when you Google him, his musical compositions are also he's famous for. And he moved to Morocco.
Yeah.
Did you ever see a movie called Naked Lunch?
No.
So it's a really weird movie. It's a novel by William S. Burroughs called Naked Lunch. It was an experimental novel.
Okay.
And they made a really experimental, weirdo, hallucinogenic, everything. Like the walls are melting. The typewriters turn into these weird bugs that people are... Anyway, it's a weird experimental art house movie. But one of the characters is a stand-in for Paul Bowles.
Okay.
But he moved to Morocco.
Yeah.
He was gay.
Okay.
Which, if today that doesn't seem like such a big deal, but if you think about like the 1960s, you could actually, I think, probably be put in jail, certainly fired from all your jobs.
Yeah, I think for some time, at least for Europeans, Morocco was also sort of a gay getaway.
That makes sense.
And so at least, Yves Saint Laurent has a place or had a place with his partner in Marrakesh.
There you go.
You know how I know that?
No.
I've seen it. I was there this summer.
In Marrakesh.
That's why we're reading it.
You saw that person you were talking about?
No.
You were going to the gay brothels and you saw him there.
Wait until I actually have quite a good connection with these stories about the way that they come together and my trip to Morocco.
Nice. Well, the short stories are both very shocking today, and they were very shocking back when they were published. And one of them is called A Distant Episode, which is highly...
That one, I think.
And that is about a linguist, a Western linguist who wants to learn more about... He's doing something in Morocco.
Yeah.
And...
kind of unclear.
Yeah, and the other one is called The Delicate Prey, which is about a young man and his entourage, I guess. You remember more than me.
I do.
I've read these.
I would agree.
And he's just traveling from one place to the other, and they get caught by some bad guys, and a rival tribe in a way or something.
There's an interesting... I think literary technique at play in that one, and I want to talk about that when we get to it.
Let's go for it.
The distant episode.
But you were just traveling in Morocco, which is amazing. I've never been there.
Yeah.
I think our discussion about Morocco or why we're here is I sent you like a clickbaity little article from a backpacking newsletter that I listened to. Now, this backpacking thing, it's called The Broke Backpacker. guess we'll give them a ring.
Might as well.
They're always promoting places. They make their money by people going out and backpacking. But he
Right.
said these are like the 10 reasons you shouldn't go to Morocco.
Right.
And it was like, it sucks on this level, this level, this level, this level.
Yeah.
When I was backpacking around Europe, I met some guys that were traveling, and they had pretty scary stories about showing up in Tangiers.
Yeah.
And just showing up at the port.
Yeah.
And really, really dodgy guys are walking around
Yeah.
looking to take advantage. And one guy threatened this American guy that I met.
Yeah.
And first he was asking him to be, oh, hey, you need a guide? I can help you out. And the guy just didn't want to give him money.
Yeah.
And so he just turned on him. The Moroccan guy
Yeah.
turned on him really quickly and goes, oh, fuck you, American. And he goes, fuck you, fuck Bill Clinton, who was the president at the time. You're going to go home with a big scar on your face. Anyway, that was his line. So I didn't go to Morocco that year. It seemed a little scary.
So Tangiers is supposed to be kind of like that. So what I understand from a friend, this a long time ago, who was in Europe for study abroad, they did a long weekend in Spain, and some of the people there decided to, hey, we'll just hop on the ferry and go across to Tangiers, and it was like, oh, you go into a carpet store and you get into a back room and there's a knife out, and they're like, you're gonna pay however much for this, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, I would happily.
Yeah.
And so you've got something you don't really want, and
Yeah.
but that's how they were getting rolled then. So.
Well,
yeah.
there's that. I did get a hard sell when I was in Istanbul for carpets, but nobody threatened me.
Yeah.
But they just really made me uncomfortable. I just really had to say, no, I don't want to buy a carpet or a rug.
Yeah.
And my
Right,
my friend, the philosopher Tim Blozer,
Hey.
he went to Istanbul, and he ended up buying like 5 rugs,
Nice.
and they had them all shipped back to his house. And
That's
the guy
cool.
had talked him into that they would be an investment.
Yeah.
And I think they were good quality
Yeah.
and probably for an okay price. But,
It's attainable, and so they saw him coming, though, maybe.
oh, yeah, he was definitely he succumbed to their techniques of sales. So anyway, I hope we're not getting off
No, we're not,
topic
because
too
we're going
much.
to talk about that.
Yeah, let's do
Because
it.
There's,
You want to
there-
just...
Well, we'll jump in, because there's sort of there's a little bit of a Wild West feel to Morocco in general, and I think these stories kind of pull that out.
Yeah.
Where this was a frontier for colonial Europe to try to set up shop between Spain and France, and so the professor. Did we ever get his name?
I don't think we do.
No, this isn't a distant episode.
Right.
So he starts out by going to like a favorite spot for tea, right?
Yeah.
And he's saying the name to himself later on. It's Hussan Rahmani's cafe.
Right.
And he gets there, and what happens?
Oh, gosh, I haven't read it in a while.
Oh, all right,
You just
all right.
tell me. He
gets there, and
the
Hussan
broads...
Rahmani's not there.
No, he's not. I think he might have died or something.
He
But
had died.
So this professor just makes a number of mistakes that all have to do with overconfidence and arrogance.
Well, he wants to buy something really stupid that the
Yeah.
waiter, and I had to look up the word that he was using for waiter, that the waiter was like, we don't buy the camel udder boxes because they're from I'm going to have to flip to my notes.
The Bedouin.
The Bedouin and the Regubot.
Yeah, the Regubot. He goes,
Yeah.
when the Regubot appear, the just man closes his door.
Right.
Some kind of like proverb, like, don't mess with those people.
And they're the ones that have these things, these boxes.
Yeah.
And the professor's rather incensed that he's saying that these things are garbage. And replies, I will give you 10 francs for each one I can get. I want a collection of them.
Yeah.
Just to be arrogant.
He's throwing his money
Yes.
at this kid, and he tips him extravagantly. Eventually. But, most of us would think of a big tip as a nice thing to do. But in the context of this story, it's an insult.
Okay.
It's, I'm coming in here with more money than, like my pocket change is like what you make in a month. So
Right.
I'm just going to throw my money around. and I don't think that the waiter appreciates it.
And he doesn't like the Regubot because they're trouble.
Yeah.
They tend to like rob and steal. Sort of, they live out kind of in a real barren area.
Yeah.
So eastern Morocco and kind of Mauritania, and he agrees that after he's done, he's like, all right, fine,
I'll take
you
you
to where they are.
So you can buy this thing.
And he brings him to a quarry, and all the while now the professor in his head is like, he's going to kill me. I know he's like.
It's a kind of a long walk to get there. They're going through, and there's like dogs barking and things like that. And the professor just, his instincts are telling him, his intuition is telling him, this is dangerous.
Spidey senses is what I think.
Spidey senses, but every time he feels that way, he intellectualizes it away.
Totally.
He just like tries to use logic, which I think is one of the themes of the story, is the limits of being logical.
You're a professor, do you do that often? You just...
I think I probably do try to override emotional...
Oh, see, I would disagree.
Like,
I don't think you do.
You don't think I do?
No, I
it.
think you're the anti-professor.
Oh, I just go with whatever. If it feels good, it must be good.
Yeah.
And then I'll come up with some sort of a justification later if I have to.
Yeah.
Well, I've been traveling around and I never had what happened to this guy happen to me.
Yeah.
So maybe I did know.
Particle board wood.
Particle board wood. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that from you. That I'm not like this guy.
No,
because he's not. Yeah.
So he takes him to this quarry, and he's like, "Oh, they're down there. You just got to follow the path down. You can see."
And it's like
it's super dark.
And it's a quarry, meaning it's just this giant pit that you have to get down by circling around like a vortex, right?
Yeah,
it's like a path.
There's something else going on with this, right? Like there's some Englishy thing that you're gonna now.
No. Well, I mean, sure, like going down the pit of hell, the different levels of hell, Dante's or something like that. But it's just obviously, at this point,
bad idea.
You should not go down
because the guy doesn't want to go. The guy takes 50 francs and he's kind of laughing.
And he goes, all right,
man.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Enjoy your camel udder boxes.
Right, that are really lame.
They do seem pretty lame.
They do seem, at this point.
Yeah.
But now we know how this ends.
No.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass on the camel udder boxes.
So he gets down there, and it's totally dark, and all of a sudden, there's a dog attacking him.
Dog jumps on him.
Yeah. And then there's a gun in his back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these guys just don't...
They take everything off of him, all of his money, everything.
Yeah.
And then they beat him up good, and here comes the craziest part to me.
Well, here's it, and the guy is... he can't even think, and he's trying to intellectualize it even as he's getting beat up. But
yes, he is.
But he's just unable to, really think because
and he's trying to speak at the same time because he's trying to, he's the linguist. He's trying to say things.
He wants to talk his way out of it,
right.
Which has gotten him through life so far.
Right.
These guys don't want to talk.
Right.
And then they kind of pull his mouth open.
This is in the morning.
And
so they're kind of sick of him talking, I think.
Yeah. And essentially they get some tongs or something and pull his tongue out and then slice his tongue out.
Yeah.
And I remember this part years and years ago that he thought the word like operation, it wasn't that word, but it was something like that. Procedure. The word procedure popped up into his mind. And then he's just choking, and he can't stop choking, and his tongue has been cut out.
Yeah, he's choking on the blood, but there's not... I feel like he loses his external voice at that point, and for the most part, his internal one. We don't...
Yeah, he stops thinking in words after that.
And he becomes... At one point, he says about the people who are there and about the waiter who's brought him to the pit, that these are not primitive people, right? So that line stood out to me. I went back and underlined it because he effectively becomes a primitive person.
Yeah.
So they keep him as sort of a slave. He's sort of entertainment.
He's kind of stripped naked or near naked, but they tie tin cans or like the tops of tin cans to him all over his body so that he shakes and clatters when he moves. And then he learns how to like do these dances that are
Right.
funny to them, and then they throw him scraps of food.
Yeah.
And that becomes his life
Yeah.
pretty quickly, and it seems that he doesn't even remember who he used to be.
And then he's a
Pretty-
linguist. Like,
Yeah.
he can't speak anymore. The
Yeah.
sweet
You-
irony.
You cut the tongue out of the linguist,
Right.
which is a tongue
Tongue,
person, and he's no longer a person. He becomes a beast.
He did.
And and so he is like less than the dogs in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And that goes on for years, right? Or time
It goes
doesn't
on-
even...
We don't really know. It goes on for a while. And then there's some of the guys are talking that they could get some money for him if they sold him to the... Now, are you ready to how to pronounce this word? It's Touareg. And car fans are going to know how to say it. It's Tuareg.
Tuareg.
Yes.
Nice.
It is the word for the nomadic people of North Africa.
Yeah.
And it's also the name of the old, former, big Volkswagen sport utility vehicle. I used to have one.
Tuareg.
Tuareg.
I've seen that.
Most people say Touareg. No.
I always thought it was a
Tuareg.
Tuareg.
Yeah.
Tuareg.
Tuareg,
Now
yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I
You
just
learn
know that
things.
from like when they came out, they were making a big deal about you have to say this right, and maybe there's a lesson in don't name your car something that people aren't going to be able to pronounce the way that it's written in the language. And
There's
where you
that.
are. Yeah.
There's that.
Anyway,
So he's going to be sold,
Yeah.
and
because they can make some money on this guy.
yeah,
you know?
so they sell him, and at first, like he doesn't perform well. Is that how it goes?
He won't
and,
do it.
And then and so there's some kind of they have to sell him for really cheap, ultimately, right?
Yep.
And he's in a town,
Yeah.
and he's sold to somebody as a plaything,
Right. He locks him up.
and then the guy sees a calendar or something,
Yep.
and then he sees words
Yeah.
in French, and then
back.
he comes back
Yeah.
to himself and kind of goes crazy and runs away,
Right.
and then he runs out of the town, and he's just running into the desert, surely to die.
Yeah.
I mean, and the French Foreign Legion guys
Yeah.
are just standing at the edge of the town,
Whoa.
and one of them takes just a pot shot at him
Yeah.
with his gun just
to see.
for fun.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
It is.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay, so the story, I got a little bit of a Hemingway vibe from a couple of passages.
Oh, very much.
And maybe a little bit of a Kelly Daniels vibe, if I can be so bold.
Yeah, I was probably quite impressed by Paul Bowles when I was a young writer and writer-to-be, and so I was never trying to write like Bowles, but I feel like it could come through pretty
I think
easily.
sometimes you, like if you're you in the books that you've written, and I think A Candle for Saint-Simon is
go.
the one I'm mostly thinking of, but maybe in Cloudbreak as well.
There
You like
we
that?
go.
You're welcome. You didn't have to that time.
No,
I did it for
thank you.
Yeah. It's
Each one of those dings is money in my pocket,
That's right.
too. So,
Yeah.
that's going to pay for our beer today.
all right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So those when you are writing in Spanglish, so there's there's English and then you have a Spanish word like somebody doesn't know how to say it or whatever, and or they're doing that. You do what he does. And
Yeah.
it's not in the passage I'm going to read.
Yeah.
But a very Hemingway-esque thing that I picked up on was they were talking about the dogs and you like where they're going to be walking to go to the quarry. There's dogs and they're kind of big. So you remember what they do? They have to pick up stones.
Oh, yeah.
And so pick up some stones, he advised. Here are bad dogs. And like it's just a very simple
Yeah,
sentence.
yeah.
Here are bad dogs. And it's like translating it from another language
Oh, yeah.
into English.
You're flipping the syntax
Yep.
to make us understand that
yes.
this is not an English speaker.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
And where? Asked the professor. But he stooped and got 3 large ones with pointed edges.
Yeah.
But it was like, and the way that the second one read was, again, it just sort of like, it tripped memories to many Hemingway stories. I really, really like this one.
Yeah. Did you read it, right?
Yeah, I read it because you know what? Can I
Yeah, let's hear
last
it.
time you were like, well, you listened to him. So, and I was like, Damn
I'm going to read
I'm
one.
so inferior. I'm going to read these. I read both of them.
I think you could listen to some Paul Bowles, though. I bet you there's some good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the book that I have right here. Partly,
not that you read instead.
No.
We've done that before.
I know. That's a trick that I like to have that in my bag of tricks. And I don't want to break it out every time. But no, I'm showing this to the camera, but this is a collected stories, and it's a pretty unusual book. If you feel the soft cover is sort of a thick matte paper, maybe, and it says Collected Stories Paul Bowles, and there's like a rug pattern in a few different colors, and it seems like one of those. I don't know about art, but like it's like a print, like a printed thing. It's like a printing press kind of runs it through, and this is the publisher is quite famous, called Black Sparrow Press. Small publisher out of Los Angeles, essentially discovered Charles Bukowski. And their books always look like this thick paper, and these cool kind of almost.
Charles Bukowski was.
What's that?
I thought it was nice that you thought I knew who Charles Bukowski was.
Oh, you didn't know him? I thought I'd mentioned him before. He's the.
I might have pretended like I knew.
He's the poet who he was like a full-time drunk.
Oh.
Wrote the screenplay for the movie called Barfly with Mickey Rourke playing him.
Maybe
he's a cultural hero, Charles
Bukowski. You got to get back to the book.
So they're just it's a really cool book press. Like I said, small press out of Los Angeles, and they were just around for a few years.
Okay.
And I don't think
it's pretty sweet.
I don't think this particular copy is worth anything, a lot or anything, but it's special to me. The book, they're not around anymore. Black
Do you have
Sparrow
books
Press.
that are worth something?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't know.
I have some old Shakespeare books that my grandfather, Clark, gave me when I graduated college, and it was 2 out of 3 volume he got in like London, and they're fancy. And
Dad's mom?
Mom's dad.
Mom's dad. Okay.
And those might be worth something, but I don't think much.
Okay.
I don't know. Books aren't worth that much generally. They're
That's
like baseball cards. You're like, oh, wow, if I collect baseball cards, one of them's going to be worth $1 million. Yeah. Not very many of them are worth $1 million. I know somebody who collects that stuff, and his prize thing, he got it appraised. It was like maybe $35. It's like that. You're mostly dealing in that range.
Well, So anything else to say on this story? I
don't know. I thought it was really pretty badass. I've taught it a lot of times, and it's just shocking. It's like a horror story in a way, but it also there's a lot of English professor stuff to talk about. Just
there is.
Mainly the arrogance of the highly educated big city Westerner going into a quote-unquote primitive people and losing that battle spectacularly.
I completely identified with the arrogant Westerner, which I didn't see him as that. So that maybe is my first thing where I'm like, oh, yeah, no, he was the good guy. He got his ass kicked and he stopped talking. That's me.
Well,
as a total,
there is that, but if you trace it, you're like, he made some just bad moves.
Can I tell you, if I had read this story before, like contemplating a trip to Morocco, I definitely would not have gone to Morocco.
You think that story would be?
It would be off-putting.
A little bit too close to. Well,
it's not even close to reality.
It was a long time ago when this was written, and it's also fiction.
Written like the 50s, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
That's not that long ago.
Oh yeah, but
I mean,
things change. I mean, over 75 years.
So I was, looking at that, and it reminds me of another trip that I have taken. We did a trip to central Mexico. You have visited a few places that were. I refer to as colonial Mexico City, Querétaro.
Sure.
So we were getting set to go. This a long time ago, and friends of ours. We were watching a movie, and it was a Mexican film, late 2000s, and it starts out with there's a holdup at a restaurant where these armed gunmen come in, and everybody gets under the table, and our friend who is from Mexico, who you definitely know, was like, that never happens in Mexico. They're putting their purses and wallets up on the table, and the gunmen are coming and they're stealing it.
Yeah.
And this person's like, that never happens in Mexico. That just never happens. That's only happened to me once. And I was like, oh, my God, what are we doing? And, of course, Mexico's awesome. Mexico City's amazing. Querétaro is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like,
Paul Bowles has a bunch of stories in Mexico and Central America, too.
so maybe you're the modern-day Paul Bowles. I like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
That's me.
I related to that because I was like, oh my God, and that was too late. Like we'd bought the tickets, we were going, and then had a spectacular time, and no issues.
Yeah.
Same thing with Morocco. I think we should talk about Morocco after the second one.
Okay, after the second.
Yeah.
Okay, the other one is more horrifying than the first, in my opinion.
In so many ways.
And it is not so much the outsider Westerner. It's more of a spoiled young man.
Do you think he's spoiled?
Well, he spends all his time
flirting up the ladies
in essentially the brothels,
yeah,
and
he
just loves the ladies, and he's like a guy of pleasure. You know?
I had written in my notes first thing, Driss is he's a little off, and maybe he likes the ladies of the night. And I put that in quotes.
Absolutely, that's what. But it doesn't seem like it has the same stigma.
He liked the ones with the black skin.
Yeah,
he mentions that.
Okay,
and I was like,
yeah, that's right.
One in particular he was really into, and he was kind of upset that they were going to be moving on. They're make leather. And
so that's his people, right?
Yes.
Here you go.
Thank you.
And they just need to move to a new city for whatever reason. Is that right?
They're moving on. They're moving goods along, right? And
are they permanently relocating, or are they just taking some leather?
I think it was. I think there's a history of nomadic people in that area in general.
Yeah.
I know the Berbers are kind of like that from experience this summer. I was not a Berber, nor was I kidnapped. In Morocco. It was great.
That is... you won, man.
Wait, I tell you how we decided, because you don't know this, because I've been waiting to tell you.
Oh, good.
I knew we were going to talk about this.
I love that you're sitting on this.
It was killing me, Kelly Daniels. I cannot believe it.
And now you're coming back to life.
I am.
You're about to tell me.
I know. Like the French professor who sees some words in French, and all of a sudden he's back to not being.
There you are,
and
you're going to start screaming and running off into the distance. But first, tell me.
Okay, I will. So he leaves with his uncles. He's going to this other town, and the Reguibat. Is that what we decided?
Yeah.
Okay, the Reguibat are once again feared in this.
Yeah.
These are the people that have come in and I looked it up because I was like, I don't know what this is. They fought well into the 30s and 40s, 1930s and 40s against Spain and France in that area. Okay. So they were seen as kind of marauders.
Sure.
I said Wild West.
Yeah.
That should.
Well, it's hard for an organized army to deal with these kind of people that are like roaming around and
they're living off of in hard places to live.
Yeah.
Right?
And they just show up, kill everybody, take the stuff, and then they're gone before you can get,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So they're going out.
The Regubots are not who they ultimately should be fearing, though, in this one, right?
Well, I don't know. So we'll get there.
Okay.
But they're riding across. They're kind of out in no man's land, and they spot a single guy coming towards them.
Right.
And in my head, it's like a Star Wars scene. And it really was. And Star Wars was actually filmed in Tunisia, I believe, some of the desert scenes.
Nice.
And so it kind of, I was like, that's a little, there's three of them, or there's two uncles and him, I think, right?
That's right, yeah.
And so...
And the uncles are older and more kind of experienced and serious in a way, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, hold on, he's going to approach us. We have more guns than he does. So everybody's cool.
Yeah.
So they come across this guy, they look at him, and does he look like a Reguibat? Because that's what they're afraid of. Because they've already heard, keep them in front of you. Don't want to let them get behind you.
I don't think he does. He seems more, not like
a different tribe.
Yeah.
That's
what
it sounded like.
Yeah.
So they he says he's going in the same direction, and maybe they could just travel together. And maybe if there was going to be some hunting, he was a really good gazelle hunter. He might be able to get some gazelle meat.
That's
for everybody.
the delicate prey.
It is.
Is the gazelle?
Or is it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, they spend the night kind of camping out, right? And they go out the next day, and he says, "I know this area well. There's usually some gazelle over there." And the kid, who doesn't know a whole lot, and it's really who we're following, is like, it's weird because it didn't seem like there's anything over there.
Yeah.
He's like, "No, I'm gonna go over there, and if you hear me shoot, come over with a gun because there might be more."
Where are the uncles at this point?
They're still there. So
Okay.
they're listening to this.
Yeah.
So he goes out, and a few minutes later, sure enough, he shoots.
Right.
So first uncle's like, "I'm on it."
Yeah.
And he gets up and goes. And
Yeah.
then there's a couple more shots. And
Right.
the kid's thinking, hey, there might be a lot of gazelle out
Yeah.
there. He's having visions of eating gazelle grease on his face.
Yeah.
They're eating it
He's
that
very
night.
sensual as part of
He
the
is.
idea is he loves, kind of like laying with the ladies, but also like eating, like nice
Gazelle
greasy meat.
Yeah, gazelle steak.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
It does.
Yeah.
Lean,
Yeah.
And so there's still, it's been a little while since Uncle's disappeared. And next one goes. There's a couple more shots.
Yeah, it's like a horror movie.
It is.
Like one after another. It's like, gosh, our numbers are getting smaller and smaller. What's going on here? Yeah.
And then it's starting to get hot, and he's like, heat of the day. I'm just going to take a quick nap. And he has dreams of...
But part of, I think I remember that there was that same thing of his intuition. Like part of him thought
He did, yeah.
he didn't want to do it, but then he overrode it somehow with like...
He gets there after he wakes up.
Okay.
He gets on the camel. He starts riding. He's like having to go over there, and then he stops. And he's like, no.
I shouldn't go there.
I shouldn't go.
There's something wrong. Yeah.
And so he's like fighting with himself most of the day. And then
he's alone, though.
He's alone.
Yeah.
And as he's sitting there, he's thinking, they're probably wondering where I am. And
Yeah.
they're thinking, why has he abandoned us? This
Yeah.
is terrible. And what he ends up doing is deciding to turn around to go back to the camp, which was maybe not a great call.
No.
So he gets there, but he sees that the camels are loaded up, like ready to go.
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden, zing, bullet goes by his head.
Right.
He starts to raise his rifle to shoot, and of course it's the guy that they've met. He shoots him in the arm.
Yeah.
He gets knocked down. The guy comes over and gets on top of him and refers to him as, he calls him like scum from, and I should have written, I could print this one out. One of the two I could print, the other one I couldn't. Delicate Prey was not printable. And it's like Fiali, something like that is the name of the tribe, and he refers to him as like Fiali scum. And anyway, this is the kind of fact checking we allow on this. No phone. We don't even know.
Oh, but
It's in the first.
I have the book.
I know, but that's the allowed one because you have the book. So it's in the first opening paragraph they say what they were, and they're the leather workers. So anyway, he the guy knocks him out, and the kid is pretty well incapacitated, and as I think it's after he wakes up is where
Filala.
yeah, he calls him Filala scum.
Yeah. So he had a grudge and nobody even knew it.
Right.
Which is another part of these stories is all these different groups, and they don't even know who each other are, but
Right.
they have these like ancient feuds.
Yes.
And so you don't know who like has some blood libel against you
Right.
until they've got you.
This is
And-
the exact opposite of what I experienced in Morocco, just for the record, and I'll explain.
Okay. I want to hear that.
But it's this kid is now clearly fucked, right? And so
Literally.
the guy strips him,
Yeah.
and then
Well, he slices off his penis.
he strips him.
Yeah.
He slices off his penis, which to me was, I'm like, hold on a second, did I just read this correctly?
Yeah.
That
He just
got
like
his
right
ding
at the
dong cut
base,
off?
just slices it off.
Yeah, right off. And he says basically every muscle in his body hurts, and the kid's screaming. And then, as if that wasn't enough,
He does a few things. He sodomizes him, but he cuts him.
oh, he
yeah.
does?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
Oh, okay. The part that I was maybe
He
more
makes a
fascinated by-
cut into
Yeah.
his belly
Yeah.
and then slips the penis into the
Yeah.
hole. Well, he smokes hashish
Okay.
and makes him crazed, which is hashish
did?
is.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I feel like the version I read was edited.
You think?
Yeah.
I wonder because, and it really goes into detail about him sodomizing him too.
No. This was not in what I read.
All right, let's see if I can find it. Let's see. Okay, here. As he was cleaning his hands in the sand, one of the camels uttered a sudden growling gurgle.
Yeah.
The Mungari leapt up and wheeled about savagely, holding his razor high in
Yep.
the air. Then, ashamed of his nervousness, feeling that Driss was watching and mocking him, though the youth's eyes were unseeing with pain, he kicked him over onto his stomach, where he lay making small spasmodic movements. And as the Mungari followed these with his eyes, a new idea came to him. It would be pleasant to inflict an ultimate indignity upon
Nope.
the young Filali. He threw himself down. This time he was vociferous and leisurely in his enjoyment. Eventually he slept.
Nope. That part was not in there.
And then how about this? At dawn he awoke and reached for the razor, lying on the ground nearby.
Yep.
Driss moaned faintly. The Mungari turned him over and pushed the blade back and forth with a sawing
that
motion
was
into
there.
his neck.
Yes.
Till he was certain he had severed the windpipe.
Yep. And he leaves him for dead. And this is the literary thing that I thought was interesting, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
All of a sudden, we have the spoiled brat kid. And, I thought he was, I don't know if I'd go spoiled brat, but he was just kind of a...
Yeah, I mean, he
punk
wasn't
kid.
a terrible person
No.
or anything.
But they kill him, and it's like, okay, the story's over, and instead we
No.
now follow someone else.
That's right.
We have to follow this guy who has just done all these terrible things. I'm going to have to go back and see if the other stuff was in there, I guess. But anyway,
Yeah.
now
so
we're following him.
This guy is like
Pretty bad dude.
a horrible person.
Yeah.
He murdered 3 people, and one person tortured and sodomized. And
In your
and
version,
then-
anyway.
yeah. Well, my version is the right version.
Yeah,
I mean,
guess. Yeah. Yeah.
it's the real deal. Black Sparrow Press, man, they're not screwing around.
Yeah.
And anyway, he goes to the town to sell all their. Basically, this whole thing was just a thievery deal. It was just a robbery, and he ends up in a town and he starts selling their stuff.
The wares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some of the
Falali.
Falali notice that this guy is selling their
Has
people's
Falali leather,
Yeah.
which nobody makes leather like they do.
And these guys I appreciate
And
quite a lot.
He's got the camels.
They do not fuck around.
They don't fuck
No. They basically
Yeah.
figure out who's selling this stuff. And they just show up. It's like the mafia.
Well, no, they did ask for permission. They went to the consulate or whatever. It was there was a French proceeding of some sort, military one, and they kind of
Made their case,
made
right?
the case with him there, and
Oh, so they grab the bad guy.
yeah,
And
they
then
take
they-
him in front of it, and in
Yeah.
front of the who's going to provide the judgment, and the response is just a wink.
Ah, they're like, yeah.
He doesn't see it, so he thinks he's okay. and basically said, You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And boy, did they.
So they just take him out to the desert, and
Yeah.
the guy's talking.
This is the best.
He's trying to talk his way out of it and stuff, right? Isn't
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
And they just dig this big hole.
Big hole, big enough to put, well, all the way up to his chin.
And then they bury him up to his head.
When they put rocks and stuff around him.
Yeah.
And bury him to his head.
And the
leave him.
sun comes out and is just baking his face into oblivion.
Yeah.
And then he starts singing.
Yeah, he does.
And that's it.
That, the expression "fuck around and find out."
Yeah.
Yeah, he fucked around.
And he found out.
He
That's
sure
right.
did.
And that one actually does have us. But here's the thing. It isn't like most revenge stories where you feel this great sense of like closure.
There wasn't enough.
No, it wasn't enough. It was more like, this place is crazy, man. Like, people do all kinds of crazy things, and it's very violent, and people are killed in brutal ways, and it's all tribal, and it's kind of, again, that if you Westerners reading this, you wouldn't really understand.
Right.
And it's complicated, and here it is. And
it's totally different than that now, I would say.
Let's hear it.
What I'm going to say is I'm social. I meet people in places, like there was, we were at the beach this summer in Spain, and I noticed that people next to us were speaking English. Guy sounded American, and they had little kid. They were there with a little boy, a girl who was probably 6. Then they were switching between English and Spanish. And I was like, well, hey, that's like, hey, where are you guys from? Oh, Pittsburgh. Oh, yeah, we've been living here for the last 6 months. But we're going back, but, whatever. So I made a friend, right? So my friend's name is Robert, and I met him there. Yeah, I'm definitely going to send him this.
Yeah, good.
And then
one more listener, man.
It is.
That's how we're doing it.
And
one person at a time.
These guys in this Paul Bowles stories were like, something that people might go, oh, that doesn't seem like a great idea. So we're hanging out. Second time I've met this guy. Family's there, and I'm like, I'm kind of an off the beaten path traveler. I'm a pretty cool guy. I got this sweet podcast. A friend of mine loves off the beaten path stuff. And he's like, do you want to go on a bus trip through Burkina Faso, Mali? And I was like, no. I mean, there were several other comments. I stopped. I was like, no. He's like, no, but look at what we could see. It's only 4 days. I was like, dude, no. I mean, like, that's well off the beaten path. I was like, you ever been to Morocco? And he goes, oh, yeah, I just was there like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because it's really cool. Oh, who'd you go with? Nobody. My wife, she was going to stay home. She was staying here with our kid. I just wanted to get away.
So is Robert like a backpacker type, or is he just wants to check things out?
He wants to hit every country on the map.
All right.
Name the map, right?
Yeah,
like everywhere, which is super cool.
That is
and he's
cool.
like, it's doable, but I keep going back to Morocco. I've been there 6 times. And I was like, shit, you want to go to Morocco? And he's like, sure. And he's just super chill, like, nice guy. I'm like, okay. So I tell my mother-in-law, who's like, you're getting murdered. like, there is no doubt in my mind that, and I'm like, what? Hold on. You've seen this nice guy. So we rent a place. We rent an Airbnb. We get tickets on Ryanair. You done Ryanair?
Hell yeah.
Boy, that is a skippable experience, but it was cheap.
Like 28 euros for a flight.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
This was a little more.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, of course.
But the last time he'd gone, it was, 15 or 20 each way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so we...
It's a bus, essentially, that
basically
is in the air.
Yeah. It's an air bus. Now I get the name of that.
There you go.
Yeah. And so, person I barely know, but seems cool. And I'm like, oh, he likes drinking beer, and we just hang out. I don't know. See what it looks like.
He didn't slice your penis off
did not.
and
no.
sodomize you.
Or stick it into, like, my abdomen, where I like that I'm showing you, but I'm assuming it was here.
Yeah, right. Right. You're kind of like sternum, kind of, yeah.
We got in late. We got in really late. And
if you think about it, though, if you were super high and you slice some guy's dick off,
Yeah.
you might very well just put a hole in their belly and
Yeah.
then shove it in.
You should have this back.
It's just like,
Yeah.
it's just something you feel like doing.
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, so we end up we arrive in Marrakesh, which is, I mean, the sense is it's so loud, smells are different. There's people everywhere at like 1 a.m. And
Nice.
we're getting shown.
They don't really drink there, do they? It's all like tea and
Yeah,
stuff.
they do.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's some drinking.
As
Casablanca,
our-
man. Did you go to
had a-
Casablanca?
No, because that's
Okay.
far and there's apparently not that much to do.
Yeah, okay. Just a movie they made.
But he, a guide, Mohammed, and my God, if anybody wants the best guide ever in Morocco, get in touch with us. The guys at the moonunderwaterpubcast.com.
Or just ask for Mohammed.
Yeah. He was super funny, and he had a Johnny Walker lanyard on.
Nice.
And I was like, so what's with that? He goes, hey, we're Muslim light here.
Yeah,
He's like,
there you go.
He's like, it's a Muslim country, but we're Muslim light.
It's kind of like Turkey. It's like
Yeah.
we're not. I
Yeah.
feel like everybody should be put light on the end
On
of whatever they
everything.
are.
Yeah.
Like life would be so much better
It'd be a lot better.
Yeah, just
So we have to get shown to where we're going because the streets are mazes, and we're staying right around the corner from the giant open square that in the middle of the night turns into outdoor restaurants, and like I'm seeing chaos. And I'm like, this is going to be super dangerous, and we're going to our oh god, and I'm forgetting the name of the type of place it is. Oh, I'm so mad at myself right now. I'll think of it. It's the type of place we rented on Airbnb, and we're walking down these really narrow.
It's just the name of the building or
It's
something?
the kind of building that it is.
Okay. A ziggurat.
No, it's
Hey.
one that's where there's an open. So it's like a big courtyard that's open in the middle.
Yeah.
Fuck. I'm so mad at myself right now.
Okay. Okay, there's a word for it. though.
Riyadh. There it is. It's
What is
a
it?
Riyadh.
Riyadh.
Yeah.
Never heard that.
So we're going to our Riyadh. It's a big open courtyard in the middle, and we had spent some time, exchanging messages like, okay, here's what we have. These places are available. This looks good. This is right around the corner from the big square called Jem El Fanad, and that one looks really good. Let's go with that one. Now, we had been putting various filters on Airbnb searches and whatever, and we're showing up outside. It's kind of a dark alley. It's like kind of hard to find, and I'm looking at the neighbors, Riyadh, like looking up. There's air conditioning units. I look up on the other side, air conditioning units. I look up, no AC, and I walk in and the
Wait, every one of them had air conditioning except the one that you rented? Is that the idea?
That's right, because we
Not only does it suck because you have no air conditioning, but you're the only one, so you feel like
there's a
jump on.
lot but it was super cheap. The place
Yeah.
was really cool.
Yeah.
And now ordinarily I have that happen and I go into fucking meltdown mode because it's 88 degrees at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. No, it's hard
And
to sleep.
This guy is so chill.
Yeah,
like,
he's not going there.
He's
And-
like
Hey,
I guess it's just hot. And I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, are you
the
really?
dude.
And he is. Oh, he's super cool. And he's like, all right, well, whatever. I'm going to go get some food. You want to go? And I was like, I am not leaving this place. I don't know how dangerous this is. Like, this seems. So he goes by himself at
Yeah.
1 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
and comes back with food. And I'm like, well, one, he found his way back. And two, well, he's not dead. So maybe one, he's not dead. And two, he found his way back. And so, he eats a little bit. And I was like, what are we going to do? Like, this is so hot. Like, he goes, whatever. It's just 3 nights. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go. We had 2 different floors because these are like multiple floor homes. Sometimes you get somebody that lives in the home that'll make you breakfast in the morning.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm just going to go rinse off in cold water and just get into bed, I guess. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll do that. And you know what? It was hot as hell. And I slept pretty good for 3 nights.
Nice.
It was nice and dry.
Well, the dryness
It
makes
helps,
a big difference.
but it's still fucking hot.
Did they have fans?
My room did not.
Okay.
But I was downstairs. He was upstairs, and he had a fan.
Okay.
It was the Friday that we were there. It was 112 degrees out.
Wow.
So we went out the next morning.
It's a little much.
And he's like, I got a favorite breakfast place. We walk over to it, and he's like, I was just here 2 weeks ago. We get there, and it's closed. It's under construction. They're like tearing it all out.
It's like the cafe that the professor went to. It's just not there anymore.
Right.
And you show up, and luckily you didn't go asking the wrong questions. But
right. And looking for, boxes made of camel udders.
Which I don't get it. Is it just like varnish? They get a camel udder, and then they...
Are the udders the legs? Like the actual, the nipple, the leg of the box? I'm imagining the box has legs.
The nipples. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yep. I know.
I like it.
Yeah.
I want one of those. Next time you go.
Next time I go. Well, I think I'm going to go next summer.
Yeah, do it.
So the next day, we went and kind of explored, and he's like, I don't want to go to the touristy places for breakfast. Let's see if we can find something local. I'm like, we're going to get kicked out. Like, we're too... he's blonde hair, blue eyes.
You're like Woody Allen, and he's like the dude.
He is.
He's just like, hey, man, it's cool. And you're like,
it's cool.
This is going to happen. And
we walk into a place where the women are cooking outside the door, breakfast joint. Women are cooking outside the door in full burqas. There's varying levels, right?
Right.
Some have full face covering. Some have just hair, and some of the women who are Moroccan have like Rolling Stones t-shirts on, hair out, whatever. Yeah. Like there's everything.
Well, that's the whole
that's
Muslim
Morocco.
light thing.
Yeah, but that's Morocco in general. I feel like
that's cool.
And we walked in, and this guy, like, nobody looked at us twice. It wasn't like the record scratch.
Called diversity, man. It's called freedom, man.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
And when we walked in, we were like, "Hey, do you have like two?" And the guy's like, he looks, and the place is, like if it's 20 by 30, feet, like there's no way.
Right.
It's tiny.
Yeah, small.
And he looks over at this guy who's sitting by himself, and he's got about a half of like a, cafe latte, like an Olay, something like that.
Get the hell out.
And he says something to him. The guy's like, oh, okay. And the guy finishes it. We're like, no. And he gets up, and he says something to me in German.
Oh.
And I was like, sorry. And then he switches to English. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you not German? I was like, no, we're Americans. He goes, oh, welcome. Yeah, we love Americans. Please have a seat.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, my God, okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
Then we ordered the food.
Nice American coming in, kicking out the locals.
Right.
Making sure, get the fuck out of my seat, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody looked at us. We pointed at people. People were sitting right next to us, like here. And the guy came over and asked in French, what we'd like, and we just pointed that, coffee, whatever. He's like, okay.
What was the food like?
Amazing.
But what was it?
So the breakfast was eggs, and then there was some sweet stuff. I don't know. I don't even know what it was. I don't know what I was eating.
It was just stuff.
It was awesome.
Was there a bread-like thing or bread or?
Not for breakfast.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Just eggs and a
eggy kind of stuff, and there was a big menu, and it was maybe $7 total for the two of us.
Yeah.
The food was amazing, and the people were really warm everywhere we went.
Nice.
It was a repeatable experience. Totally different.
That whole broke backpacker thing where he's bagging on Morocco.
Totally.
I feel like one person had a bad experience and then just did a rage blog post about fuck this whole country.
I'm telling you, it's super cool. Marrakesh is awesome. A trip.
Huge number of I think it's like number 2 or something in Augustana College is this whole.
That's right. Yeah.
Their international recruiting.
One of the reasons we want to go this summer.
And
So
wait, why that?
Because Anna, my wife, has had a bunch of students from Morocco.
Oh, so she can relate to them.
And they said that they're, she's like, they said that their parents are in tourism. No, they said they would show her around. Their parents are in tourism. What could they do? And I'm like, oh my God, they own riads in the city, and they rent it to gringos like us.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and say that I really liked these stories.
Yeah.
If I had read these before I went, I might not have gone. So you should go places, even the ones that you're like, oh my God, I don't know that I can do this. And the reason I needed to go to Morocco was when I was 18, I made a ridiculous promise to myself that I would go to every continent except for Antarctica, by the time I was 30.
Yeah.
And I counted the Canary Islands as Africa for a long time. And I always felt like I cheated myself.
Is that officially, are they part of Africa in some
They're
way?
like, 60 miles off the coast or 80 miles, whatever it is, off the coast of Morocco.
But when
To
you
me, it
look at
doesn't count.
the maps, they kind of count that, or does
Well,
that
it's
even?
Spanish, so
Yeah.
So I mean, in my head, it was like, this is fine.
You were cheating.
I was cheating.
But now you've done it.
I did it, and I would totally do it again.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
And I would. It's one of those places I would recommend for a lot of people.
Yeah. I love it. I want to go. I want to go as soon as possible.
So I think on that note, I'm
Yeah.
good, man. You got.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love to hear I like that we started with the fear of Morocco, and we continued into the fear of Morocco, and we did more of the fear of Morocco, and then we end with it's an absolutely lovely place.
Look, there was man, I can't say enough good things. I really can't.
Yeah.
I loved it.
All right. 3 cheers. Here's to Morocco. Sounds like a great country to visit.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed talking about all this stuff. You know what we should do is you should read some more Paul Bowles stories, and maybe we can come back to him sometime. Yeah. It's basically he's a traveler, and Morocco is where he stayed a lot, but he really hung out in Mexico and Latin America.
Sweet.
I think, and had some observations that are the same kind of things that we do when we do our podcast.
Groovy.
All right. See y'all.
Thanks.
Cheers.